service is something you do for somebody, and hospitality is how you make somebody feel. I love that because we're in the hospitality business, and that's making people feel a certain way. I don't want to get rich to get a Lambo, or for me, producing income, the downstream of that is time with my family.
Let's go back to beginning even before City Lifestyle. What things formed you to be who you were, from family to mentors to different things that you did in the past before City Lifestyle?
There's a lot of power in a decision. There's a lot of power in like the I will, right?
Yeah.
And it's typically followed by habits and routines that you've learned to go out there and execute. And you talked about reverting back to the number of appointments. Right. Are there any other habits that are kind of non-negotiable for you that you've built throughout the 13 years?
All right, we have Andy Manz with us, the legendary Andy Manz.
About that.
How long you been with us now? When did you start your magazine?
I started February 2013. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's 13 years almost?
Yeah. Be 13 years coming up. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. My first deadline was basically New Year's Day, 2013. So, I was at my parents' house visiting on New Year's Eve, and that was like I was like texting a prospect, and that for the back cover, and that put me over the edge because the deadline was the next day, and so there's a few little things like that. Oh my gosh, you always remember. And
yeah, I remember the first time. Yeah, when I was launching Leewood, I remember it was like, I'm not an emotional person, but I like sank to my knees and was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this actually launched.
Put it over the line. Yeah.
What did you feel like when you finally got that back cover? Was it like,
yeah,
did you feel like you arrived at that point, or did you feel like that was where the
it was
work
more just
began?
relief. It was just a stress relief, and definitely not didn't feel like I crossed the finish. It was a milestone of many that I knew I had to.
It's the beginning, right?
Yeah, you got to keep
the beginning.
It's like running through the bag, running to first base. You gotta.
No doubt.
You can't let up. So
I really think if you're a franchisee and you get a chance to watch this, ultimately you should probably grab a pen, because you have an epic, historic story that we get a chance to dig into today, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nuggets that come out from that. So
mostly all the mistakes I've made. I think that'll be the most because I've made them all.
Yeah. What do you feel like the thing from the last year that you're the most proud of? Just reflecting on the last year. We'll get into some past stuff, but just from the last year, what do you think you're the most proud of?
I think, wow, man. You didn't have that on the list that you sent me at 10 o'clock last night. I think, our family just with, we lost our house in the Marshall Fire in 2021, and there was a 3-year period where we were bouncing around and we were kind of all over the place. At one point, we were living 4 hours away from Boulder, and that was challenging. But I think, this last year we moved in our new house after we rebuilt, and then just being able to lock in and get back to, you go through peaks where you're pedal to the metal, in my early years, and knew I had to provide for Katie, and we've got 4 kids, and then you kind of coast, you get high on your laurels, and there's periods where you just kind of ride the wave. And then I felt like this last year, especially seeing Athena up on stage for I think the second or third year in a row at the conference, take down the trophy. I'm like, all right, it's time to get back, and kind of hit it hard like I did in the early days. So I think this year, I think this was our best. Probably, I think we've set records in almost all of our sales categories this year. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I remember giving that first award, and you coming to because you came to our Christmas party.
Yeah.
And you had just sold $1 million, and nobody had sold $1 million before, which is a huge deal. Like, sold $1 million in TCV, and then I find out like earlier that day that you're coming to the event, and I have to find an award, and it was just our corporate team at that time. And so I had been given this, and a lot of people don't know why the Kingpin Award existed, but I had gotten this award from a charity, Folds of Honor, that was a bowling pin. And I grabbed that. That was in the back of my car. I grabbed that, got a Sharpie, put $1 million winner Kingpin.
Yeah.
And then put a koozie over the Folds of Honor
Yeah.
logo. And then gave that to you. And that's how it was born.
Very classy.
It was pretty amazing, though, what you accomplished.
I had a few, and then you kept bowling, the bowling pin going, and people would like come in. I had them in my like bourbon room, and people thought I was like a professional bowler, like in my previous like.
You kind of look like it right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit and go back to the early days. You talked about that first sale, but what was it like in the early days with City Lifestyle as a whole? Like training programs and the process systems, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys were still. You had the 4 Kansas City magazines. I think at the time that originally when I had my restaurant out at Lake Lotawana, and somebody, I can't remember who the publisher was, but was selling ad space in that, and we were a tiny restaurant, and we were packed on the weekends, but our Monday through Thursday was pretty slow, and so finally we're like, all right, let's do we didn't know anything about marketing, but they showed us the map of where the magazine was going, and my business partner and I were like, man, those are the homes that we want to target, and so we did like a quarter-page ad, and then they did a story on us, and we'd had a few stories in other local newspapers and things, and nothing. We never expected any return. But I do remember when the Leaf Summit Lifestyle, the story came out on the Canoe Club. That week we just got hammered, and we didn't staff up for we were just on a Tuesday night where we normally would have like 2 servers and 6 or 7 tables. It was packed, and so I was like, man, this thing actually does kind of works, and then once we started thinking about I was seeing that you were driving a much nicer car than I was at the time, so and having kids and being in the restaurant industry was getting married and coming home at midnight and working on the weekends didn't quite have the same appeal it did when I was a bachelor. So that was, and then coming on and seeing, you guys were on, I think Metcalf at the time, some crappy office that like no windows. It's like, whoa, everything.
What's going on here?
Yeah. Is this
a Ponzi scheme?
Yeah, right. But I was like, man, I really, it was a kind of a 2-part. I believed in, I was bought into what you were doing, and I don't know why, but I had faith. I didn't know you that well, but something about what you were doing, I believed in, and then you pair that with the traction we were seeing with advertising, drinking the Kool-Aid for sure. So, and then did one ride along with Dustin Shaw here before. I was so focused on, we were getting ready to move, we were selling our house here and selling my half of the restaurant to my business partner, but I was like, I need to go. I think Matt kept hassling me like, you need to go do some ride-alongs before you move out to 500 miles away. So
we were just trying to get you to commit at the beginning. It's like, man,
really? Was I having a hard time?
But I think, did it help that was Jim Newman on board?
Jim,
Uncle Jim.
Oh yeah, he was, So once,
and then Kathy.
Then once I moved, Kathy was, doing it in Tulsa.
So the only people I could get at the beginning was family members.
Yeah.
And that was even hard enough to get family members.
But then it was just, all right, like I knew enough that I didn't know what I was doing, so to trust the process and just kind of follow what you guys were doing. So.
And then when you were working the restaurant, you were working how many hours a week?
Oh, geez, it was, 50, 60, 60 in the summer for sure. Yeah. That was our peak season. So yeah, and it's not to say that this is not hard work by any means. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to have to hit it hard, but at least I could, I was having breakfast with my kids every morning. I was there for dinner every night, which couldn't say the same thing for.
Sounds like the evidence was stacking for you. Is that really what led to the decision? Because in the early days, there's like, what is the thing?
Right.
And you saw a shift in lifestyle. You saw a shift in the ability to have a little more control over your schedule? Was that really the kind of driver there?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean, one thing my parents definitely instilled work ethic, and even though for the whole decade of my 20s I was kind of goofing off and skiing in Vail and doing whatever. I knew I did have work ethic, as I knew that was important in whatever I did, and so I trusted that, okay, if these guys figured out how the system of how to launch these magazines, and I have the work ethic, and I'm in a market where it seems like a good fit. I feel like I was kind of gambling on myself, and had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and number 3 on the way, and 6 months savings. So
yeah, big decision.
That was enough motivation to get after it. Yeah.
Did you have to sell anything?
Yeah, I did. I mean, even I think after I launched, it was cold outside. I know that, but before Facebook Marketplace, it was Craigslist. The 6 months like runway, say, even though we'd launched the magazine in February 2013, it still wasn't, I was making a couple thousand a month at that point, and that wasn't enough and the savings was running out. And so I specifically remember selling one of my mandolin, musical instrument, meeting a guy at a gas station at like 10 o'clock at night, freezing cold, and I still, I passed that gas station several times a week. So that's it's been a good reminder of,
how far you've come ultimately.
That, and like, hey, don't take anything for granted, and there's no guarantees, and you got to keep after it, or things can slip away. And so
was there a moment during your process where you say, uh-oh, what the heck did I get myself into?
I mean, maybe then. I'm glad I didn't get robbed that night, but most musicians are pretty nice. I was questioning, because, man, I mean, the no's are in sales, in any sales role, you're getting far more no's than you are yeses, and I think for a while there that was wearing on me, and you kind of just go through peaks and valleys, and I think I was in a spot where I was like, getting some that you think are in the bag, and then it's just like, door in your face, and so I remember I texted you or called you and was like, what kind of corporate positions do you guys have? I was feeling like the need of like a consistent income and not this roller coaster, because at first, when you're first starting, it is, obviously 13 years now, like my income is more steady, and it doesn't have the ups and downs, but and
you don't really know the metrics of the business yet, right? So much of that in the early days, especially transitioning from restaurants, you're just trying to figure out what the math looks like and routine looks like. And so I think that's a critical place for most franchisees ultimately, right? Because they come in, unlike the connection you had with Steven, that was almost blind trust due to family,
right,
and knowing he's not going to direct you in the wrong place. A lot of our franchisees, I think, come in with whatever experience they have in the background, but they still go through a process of, is this right, and will I make it, and all of that, right? What do you think helped you most during those early days as you were figuring out what the rhythm of the business looks like?
I'd say just trust in the process. I mean, when I started, it was Monday mornings. I think there were 8 of us at the time in the company. It was 8 publishers, and then you and Matt, and it was 10. The goal was to have 10 face-to-face meetings every week. So every Monday morning, everybody would, you'd have to report like how many meetings you had the past week. And I never wanted to be, say, 6 or 8. I always wanted to be, 12, 15. And I knew that's what it would take to get the magazine launched. So that was, I think, just like trusting that, and not trying to, well, if I get, 4 meetings and they're really good meetings, I did. I had some terrible. I met with. I think I met with the Boulder Public Library, which might take the cake for the dumbest, the biggest waste of time of my career. 'Cause they had no, but my mindset was though that I'm going to get my 10 meetings every week, and 13 years in, it's changed, but I still have goals that may not be 10 a week, but that was in the early years. I think just like trusting, because I didn't know what I was really doing coming from the restaurant industry. I had no sales background, but relationships, I've always done good with that, and that was kind of just trusting what they were, how they launched theirs. So
okay, so was there a moment that okay, this is when things broke, this is when I feel good, this is now like, okay, I don't want a corporate job anymore, I know this process and the system, and I can see this? Was there like a moment that you remember, or some kind of time frame?
In the early days, there was staple. So like 36 page was the launch, and that was stapled magazine. And I knew like getting to a straight edge, perfect bound was just from a feel from people taking the magazine out of the mailbox is a big deal, and kind of separate us from the junk mail. So I think I think that was like our 4th month in that we went straight edge, perfect bound. So at that time it was 52 pages to get perfect bound. So that was a huge milestone. And I think that like I rode the momentum. I pushed hard to then take the magazine out and have more client meetings and show that, I was very proud of the straight edge. And
feels different.
Yeah, it does. So then I think that, we kind of rode that trajectory, and then it was like, revenue numbers, getting to 50K, getting to 75K, getting to 100K. And so, yeah, there's always the great thing about this product is there's never really a cap. I mean, if we were just a real estate magazine or just a home design magazine, you're kind of get maxed out with the industries and the advertising partners. But we cover, being a lifestyle magazine, there's so much area for continued growth. And,
I remember some of those meetings on the first, when you were launching the publication. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's a nice way.
Yeah. Well, you had. I mean, there was. I remember one client. I think it was like a landscape company or something.
It was a remodeler.
There was one that said, there was a lady, and she said, this may work in some of these other areas, but this won't work. That was a pool area. Pool company. Yeah. She said, this won't work here.
Yeah.
Did she ever?
I had a car dealer. I had a GM of a car dealership say also to me that like you might, like 3 years you're going to be out of business. Yeah. That was like 10 years ago.
Wow.
So
talk about your first deal you ever signed.
I'll never forget. It was Halloween, 2012. So that was my first meeting that I went on. I'm a Land Rover enthusiast, and so I was targeting. I got a meeting with Land Rover Flatirons outside of Boulder, and I can't say it was the smoothest. I'd probably crack up if I saw the video of the interview or the client meeting, but we connected over, because I'd owned multiple Land Rovers in the past, and so I was able to use that and talk with the GM, and he might have felt sorry for me because I definitely dropped like, hey, got a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, like, I'm making this thing go, and it did help that I could show, gyms in Atlanta and Leawood here in Kansas City that those magazines. He knew one of the car dealers that Jim had in Atlanta. And just through the dealer world. So that, given some credibility, that helped. But yeah, I remember like, it was not it was inside 2-page spread, but he had like an opt out like every 4 months. So he totally leveraged me. But, using that momentum, because then in my next meeting, I was like, hey, Land Rover's got the inside 2-page spread. This is, going to be a high end magazine. Like, yeah. I definitely, then I leveraged that relationship. But yeah, I remember calling you. I think you thought I was joking.
I said, are you serious? You signed it on your first deal?
Yeah.
I was like, all right. I said, as a car dealer, so you they invoice late and all that, and they sometimes pay late or whatever. I said, we invoice on time, but they may pay late. Yeah. And you said, well, do they pay when they're on credit card? I was like, You got a credit card?
That was the
You signed a
old
Land
days.
Rover first time deal, 2-page spread.
Where they actually write down
And
their
a
credit,
credit card.
on
Funny.
paper. That
Yeah.
was pre-digital agreements. But yeah, so every Halloween since then. I mean, Ed Dobbs was the GM, and we worked together for 7 or 8 years, and he's been retired for multiple years. But even this last month Halloween, I always text him and say, "Hey, it's Ed Dobbs Day." Man. And I'll show him the magazine and
So cool.
just thank him for believing in us. Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
There was another appointment that we went to, and it was at that restaurant. What was that?
Oak.
Yeah, Oak. We go down and you order a beer.
It was Friday, man.
It was Friday and you order a beer and we're meeting with a client.
It was
I was
11
like, what the heck are you doing?
We're in Boulder.
She got a Bloody
We're in
Mary.
Boulder. Come on, man.
So Andy says, "Oh no, I'll send it back. I'll cancel the beer." When he said it, I said, "I'll cancel the beer. Watch, we'll see what she says when she comes in." And she ordered a Bloody Mary or a beer or something.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is Boulder."
Yeah.
But
No doubt.
one of the other appointments we went to, it was such a, I don't know, for me, it was like this turning point because you were such a quick learner. You learned and you took and you listened exactly what we said and then you followed it. And now you're creating systems and different things that we're following. But you, at the very beginning, you just took the information and you followed it to a T. And so I remember this appointment with a remodeler that we went to, and it was the appointment before, and you had not done the push away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going through, and I was like, just say the push away, and see what happens. And it was that push away of, hey, we're mailed to the most affluent homes in Boulder. We're not for everyone, so tell me what separates you from your competitors. And so you did that perfectly to this remodeler, and then he goes on for like at least 10 minutes talking about all his accomplishments, all his things and everything. And at the end, I don't remember this or not, but at the end he says, "I got referrals too that I can give you."
Yeah. He was like making sure his spot was.
It was amazing
saved.
how
Yeah.
you hit it perfectly.
There's so much in that story because ultimately we touched on this earlier, but the blind trust, the quickly learning, the putting it right to work without trying to redo the language or approach, and the way that you just attacked that is such a key for people to grab a hold of. I think ultimately, I'm sure that became a big foundation in all of the habits that you built in those early days, and probably a big key to your success. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think even now I'll get in a rut, and I'm, even right now I'm like, man, my presentation sucks right now. Like, I'm just kind of going through the motions, and I need to start asking some more, like what would, after flipping through the magazine with the prospect and saying, what are you currently doing to get in front of this audience, and then just being quiet, or what do you think it would do for your business if you were in front of this audience every month? I just don't. I've got lazy and haven't asked those kind of questions that in the early days, and asking for the business and not saying, just we'll follow up in a couple weeks, whatever. I'm going to go roll into my nice neighborhood and have dinner with my family. And, I think when you're hungry and in the early days and you're like, there is no follow up next week. Like, let's, being pushy, but like, they know I'm here to do business. Their time's valuable. My time's valuable. Trying to uncover those objections. And, I think that's probably like something I'm really want to push through and next year and get, polish up on my presentation. Even I've had thousands of them over the last 13 years. But there's always ways to get better.
Yeah, no doubt. It's easy to, as separation from the beginning comes, habits shift and evolve, and so anyways, the self-awareness I think around that at your stage is huge.
Yeah. Huge.
So going into that, you've been here for 13 years almost, and I'm sure you've hit different barriers, but is there a single barrier that you can remember that you hit that is like, man, this was hard to overcome, but then you overcame it, and how did you overcome that?
Probably just going to Boulder was a completely new market. I grew up in Kansas City and was here for 30 years minus a few years in Vail after college. But not knowing, no hookups with the business community there, no, ends or anything. And that was probably, I'd say that was the biggest, because Boulder's, as most of the communities that we serve across the country, they're tight-knit communities, even though Boulder's 75,000 people, if you take out the college students. The business community is very tight-knit. So it's, for somebody like me rolling into town, selling, this idea of a new magazine, I think a lot of people at first, it was easy to dismiss and be like, whatever, this guy's just, we're an affluent community and just another dude rolling in trying to capitalize on it. But my wife Katie and I, we were committed to that community. We moved our family there and sold everything here to do that. So we were, I think, very soon, with us just being at community events and people seeing us around town, that they could tell that we were invested in the community. So I think that was initially, that barrier was tough to but then once we broke through and started getting some of these key business owners involved, and then just added credibility.
Yeah, it feels when you're in those environments that you're fighting an uphill battle a little bit, right? Because the trust is not there. They're just seeing you for the first time. Do you have like a specific situation in the early days where you felt that? And then when was the shift? Like, how long did it take you to feel those things move? Because I've experienced similar things around being brand new in a place, but anything specific there?
Probably, when Audi bought the back cover, I think in kind of the beginning of year 2. So, and they've had that back cover for every single issue since then. So, wow. 12 years. But that was just I was kind of just, there were about 20 businesses that I was really honed in on. I had others, dozens of others on my list, but there was 20 that like my top, like my hit list, like and even today I'm like, I'll drive by a business and I'll get pissed that they're not in our magazine. I'm like, why 13 years? Like, come on. But it's mainly my fault because I've probably given up on them. But Audi was somebody who just every month when the new magazine came out, I would go drop it off and, try to chat the guys up. And I just wanted that prestige, that clout that they had. And they were nice to me, but they were just like, it was no. And I didn't know this, but the owner of that dealership and the founder was getting ready to sell his dealership. And so that's why. So finally, one day they're like, "Hey, come back in like 2 months. We're selling the dealership. There's a new GM going to be in, this new auto group." And so I popped in a couple months later, just on my way home to get lunch, and just was thinking that I was just going to drop off the new magazine and maybe get a business card of the new GM. But the Jamie Hampson, the new GM there at the time, greeted me with a smile, and somehow she was up in the showroom, and she's like, "Yeah, let's go back and talk." And then like boom, right there they bought the back cover for, wow, I think at that point 24 months was our longest agreement. That was before we did 36 month. But that was huge to get those guys and just have them be a long-standing partner. So,
and there's a lot of power in like being clear around who you want in and having that strategy, and there's nothing better than what that feels and like when it comes to fruition.
I could have easily, I almost didn't turn the car into the parking lot because I was just like, I'm hungry, I want to get home and get lunch, and this is going to be another, just fruitless stop in. But you just never. There's been several, in my tenure of just like, wow, what if I wouldn't have dropped in that day? Like, how much?
No doubt. That's huge. Yeah. For a franchisee, ultimately, I think that's such an important lesson because it is so easy to not make the call, not pull into the dealership, allow yourself to kind of get distracted. So anyways, super cool.
So talk to me about how you build relationships with your clients and what that looks like. Because you mentioned Audi, And it made me think about some of the things that you've done over the years for clients.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do for somebody that's not a client? Do you do anything? Or do you wait till they're on board and you start to build that relationship? And what are some things that you've done for current clients?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the, like, you know, bring a bottle of wine to, you know, the client meeting. If I don't want like their charity. They don't. If they're going to come on board with us, it's because they believe in our product and what we're doing, and not because I don't want them to feel obligated. Because I'll drink your Silver Oak, but I'm not gonna try to impress somebody like that. But
by the way, you had the son of the Silver Oak guy.
That's right. That was probably that might have been my best. I don't know how I pulled all that off, but
wow.
Yeah, that we had we did a client meeting, or one of our realtors had like a $25 million listing. Horse property in North Boulder, and had a helicopter pad, and I got a helicopter. I got the Silver Oak. Their family has some Denver connections, and worked my way through that whole chain, and got the grandson of the Silver Oak founder to come pour wine at this broker open house, and then I got a helicopter charter company to, worked out a story with those guys, and they came and they were giving guests helicopter rides around the area.
Amazing.
And I was definitely like, man, I mean, my client who is still with me, Josh Bear, they were like, dang, Dan, that was pretty good. I kind of set the bar, and then it's like, well, how do you top that? You know? All downhill from there.
You told that story at one of the conferences, and like 5 people said, "Oh, I should go get a helicopter company."
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're missing the point here. So what do you find, and what are you try to do for somebody on a relationship building process? Obviously it's not a forced thing. You're just so natural at it, and it's like inbred in you. And so what is the thing that you do to,
I think, just
build
like
that?
hospitality there's Frosca is a restaurant in Boulder that you actually took us to when we were before I launched. Yeah, they won the James Beard. They won the top restaurant in the country this year, and their founder Bobby Stuckey has a great quote. He actually he spoke at a real estate event that you came to with me, but. His quote is service, because they're like, oh, the restaurant is the service industry, and his whole take is service is something you do for somebody, and hospitality is how you make somebody feel.
That's
and
good.
I love that, because it's really, he'll correct, like, no, we're in the hospitality business, and that's making people feel a certain way. So and I think me coming from 20 years in the restaurant, food and beverage, hospitality industry, I've taken some of those skills and just, if somebody you're gonna, when 250 plates are going out in a night, it's inevitable that something's gonna be, something's not gonna be quite right, and you got to deal with that, and not letting, instead of making excuses like, oh, we only screwed up one steak, just trying to make that right before that person leaves the door. And so even in with our business and our clients, we definitely make mistakes, but I think something I really learned is taking ownership and just say, I'm sorry, we totally blew it. We'd like, we want to make this up to you, and instead of trying to somehow pass the blame. But
there was it's amazing just the connections you build. And so you don't do anything for clients typically before they're a client. I guess not prospects.
Sometimes
you don't do anything for prospects really much from a...
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a quarterly, we used to do big Kentucky Derby parties that we would invite, our advertisers and the public, or sell tickets for charity. And we've kind of scaled back on those really big events and focus more on, we do a quarterly home design breakfast for all of our advertisers that are in, architecture, building, interior design. So, and we've built that as like, hey, this is specific for advertising. So I'm careful about, I'm not going to invite 4 builders that I'm prospecting in, and then I got my 3 guys that are spending money with me. Like, wait, I thought this was just for advertisers, but I'll be strategic and maybe invite one person that's thinking about coming on board to that, just so they can see like, wow, this is more. We want to be more than just the ad itself. We feel like that's 50%. I want that to be 50% of what we do, and that holds me accountable to say, okay, well, what's that other 50%? So that's is the events. And I think some people get sidetracked, like, oh, I've got to throw this big gala and
Totally.
billboards, and it's like really like just even if you started with just the home design, because that's, I think in all of our markets, home design, home services, that's our number one industry that we're pulling from. So by just doing that as a baseline, I think there's a lot of value that we can add.
Do you find that part of that kind of prospecting phase, you're referring, introducing, connecting people together? And if you are doing that, has there been any real big impact that's come from that's returned to the business by way of growth and new advertisers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even though a lot of these business owners are competing against each other, they're all, like I said, it's a small community, so they're friendly. They all play nice for the most part, and they're it's not like they're all kind of on the same pay scale. They're all focusing on high end homeowners, so their pricing is not going to be a whole lot different from each other. But we did a farm dinner up above Boulder, up in the canyon, and did you come to that one? Yeah, we had Zeal sunglasses. They're based in Boulder. We had them come, and like everybody, they set up like a stand, and everybody got to take a free pair of pick a pair of sunglasses, and we had Land Rover drive people up and Land Rovers, and did like a VOOV little champagne tasting at our office at the bottom of the canyon. And all that we were able to leverage the magazine. I didn't have to come out of pocket a whole lot on that, but up there we had 2 builders that were sitting next to each other, and one was like, man, I'm super slammed. We got this great opportunity for a $900,000 remodel. That the other guy was like, well, we've got a little gap till our pipeline's we've got an opening right now. And he's like, well, I'll make the intro. So just by him going to that dinner that night, he got a $1 million remodel. So there's been a lot of,
that's awesome.
A lot of, I think especially again, going back to the home services, home design industry, if you asked any of these business owners in our magazine, I think that they probably will say they get the most value out of the network of the people that they're getting to meet at these events.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a big piece of it, the community connections, and ultimately being kind of at the center of that and being able to be a resource is really powerful.
Because there's no, an architect isn't going to have a $10,000 off of your home design. So there's a case to be made, like it's harder for them to see ROI when there's not a direct, a burger place saying it's, if they advertise with us like, hey, $2 Tuesday burgers, like they'll instantly see if they only did that offer in our magazine, the next week they would see a massive uptick. It is harder to, somebody could say, well, where's the ROI? The ROI is that we're giving them access to these affluent homes, and that's, where you just normally wouldn't get it. I've even said to people like, hey, I'm not trying to be rude at all, but 99% of the people in Boulder have no idea of your business. So that's, and I know referrals is always going to be number one for most of these businesses that are doing it the right way, and repeat customers. But there's something to be said for establishing your brand in front of these homeowners. Yeah.
That's great. You do such an incredible job on, drive, but then the relationship side of it. Even Jamie Hampson, how long ago did you sign her up?
Yeah,
12 years ago. Yeah. I just stayed in her house in South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's how, the connection you made a connection with me and her. It's just, you're always thinking of how can I help the next person.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset you have, instead of just how much more can I add to this book or whatever. It's such an incredible mindset of 50% of the job is the ad in the magazine. Now I got to do the other 50%.
Right.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
It's giant, actually. I think it's such a key component is really taking ownership as a publisher and an owner to bring the other 50% of the value.
Great.
And it sounds like there's been some really cool intention to that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And if you say that out loud in the client meeting, it's a accountability for me and for whoever, because
totally,
if
you own
12 months in, it's renewal time, and they're like, wait, I thought you said the ad was only 50%. Like, what did I get? So,
yeah.
And I'm really 2026. I've told my wife Katie that I really want to focus on current. Of course I'm always going to be looking for new clients, but Jim Niecamp's line I love, like, the best client you have is the one. The best client is the one you already have. Really trying to. And we're proud of our renewal rate, but I look back and I'm like, man, there's so many clients I've lost by just not going a little bit extra on the customer service, and which comes back to building your team, and because it's hard as you grow and you start having 50 and 60 different advertisers as opposed to 12, 13 when you start. It's a lot easier to give good customer service when you've only got a few clients, but we've got a great team, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing
and you customize what you do for people. I mean, you can't do a huge event like you did with the helicopter and the grandson of Silver Oak for everybody.
Right.
And so that was a massive client that you had that's gone into several publications and all that, but it's been around for a really long time.
His wife, Josh's wife, did I tell you that she's going to be the publication director for Cherry Creek?
Yeah, you did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Overqualified.
The connections and everything. But I remember you saying that there's one client you just, and I can't remember what industry he is. Maybe he's a landscaper or something, but he just wants to you give him 2 tickets every year to the same game for him to take him and his son.
It's the Warren Miller ski movie that comes. There's a ski movie every November. I just took my boys last week that comes out, and yeah, it's silly. It's like they're $30 tickets. He makes $500,000 a year probably, and it's not even about, but just thinking like that every year I'm like, hey, which show do you want to go to?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, I want to talk a little bit about daily habits. So when you wake up in the morning, what's your routine look like, and what's your daily habit?
And be honest here, ultimately, right? Because we all have days where we're like, there's maybe not a habit, but what does that look like traditionally?
So something I've really tried to get better on, I'd say last year I did the 75 hard.
Yeah.
The 75 days, no booze, workout, no sugar, the gallon of water, that whole thing. And that really changed my perspective on, I think, a couple things, like just getting up early. And I would always kind of like, just wake up 30, whenever it's time to get the kids ready for school, like that's when I would get up, which anyway, it wasn't like we were sleeping until 10 a.m., but there's something to be said for like having an hour in the morning before all the chaos starts, especially people with young kids. And that's been huge. And then just like cutting back on the, for me, I know everybody's different, but not drinking during the week. I didn't really realize, I didn't drink a lot. This is like probably just off topic, but I think I drank frequently. It was just like a habit, like having a beer after work and then having a glass of wine with dinner. And I'm by no means here to, condemn anybody for whatever they decide to do on that. For me personally, when I did the 75 days, I slept way better. I was getting up at 5:30, and that's something I've continued. My workout schedule's still out of whack, but waking up at 5:30, having some prayer time, reading the Word has been huge for me. Just mindset, getting dressed, not work. Our kids are all in school full time. I could work from home. I get so much more work done when I'm going in the office. It's just like I'll start cleaning I'm so ADD. I'll like Tuesday afternoon and I'm like cleaning out my garage, just like closing a deal, and then I get just I go to the garage to get something, and then I start organizing my garage. I'm like, I can't it's great that we have the flexibility in this model where we're here in Kansas City right now, and it was just on my computer for an hour working. So my clients, to them, they don't know where I'm at, but it is like having that. I think the no booze. I mean, if Steven were to take me to Capitol Grill tonight, I would order the most expensive bottle of Burgundy I could and have a glass. I'm not saying I'm never saying never on that, and probably followed up with a Van Winkle 23 year. But
thank you.
As a
Appreciate that.
just
It was very nice of you.
yeah, just as a I pretty much go into a week hey, I'll Katie and we'll have a cocktail Friday afternoon, when we're sitting on the deck, and that's just me, and I can tell even having a glass. I don't know if I'm getting old or what, but for me, even having a glass of wine, I might feel 92% the next morning versus 100%, and I just can't. I've just found that I need to be operating at with 4 kids, and Katie, my wife's got 30 employees in her business, and everything we have going on. I need to be during the week. I need to be locked in, and we can do that when we retire of having cocktails during the week. But
I love it.
Just for me, that's been a big game changer.
Morning routine you talked about, I think it's such a huge component. We've been talking with the franchisees about how to win the day, and number one to how to win the day is start right. Because I think it's so impactful when you can take time and take care of mind, body, and soul, dig into scripture, do something physical for your body. These things help to really kick the day off. But you've also been at the top of the rankings for a lot of years. And so how do you look at goals, and what's that look like as you enter every year? You talked about one of your goals is really strengthening existing relationships, but how do you look at goals, and can you maybe share a specific year or a story around how you looked at it, how you prepared for it, and how you saw it come to fruition within this role?
Yeah, I mean, in the early years, there was a set revenue amount that and I'm sure that's obviously the case now too, but you have to hit this amount of money to launch your magazine. So that was number one. And then, there was the perfect bound, you've got to be at this many pages to be perfect bound, which equals revenue. So I think now it's, there's so much more. There was a period of 7 years where there was a gap in the competition in the company. And I had a head start obviously on a lot of people with being in it so long, but man, there's not much more motivation than just clicking on the ARC tab every day and seeing where, there's
shifted a little bit.
There's people ahead of me now, and even looking, used to be, if there was somebody ahead of me, I'll just I'm going to make myself feel better. I'm just going to click 6 months down the road, and then there would be I'd be up, $20K on the next person. Now I'm still in third place, I think in May or June for 2026. So, no matter what, I don't think, if you're not a competitive person, this probably isn't the right gig for you, because I winning is, I think it's just something that anybody that's in sales, it doesn't have to be you don't have to be psycho about it, but I want to win every year. So again, like I said, joking about Athena, and I told myself I only work 10 hours a week, it's fine, she can have number one, but it really did.
It kind of gets to the soul a little bit.
Yeah, all right, it's time to get.
Now we had somebody just hit 117 grand.
I saw it. Yeah,
117
Nadine.
grand for the issue, Nadine.
I think that's a company record.
Yeah. Things are shifting. And then
I sent her an email. I sent her a thank you or a congratulations email.
Did you?
I love it. Thank you. That
it doesn't mean high tide raises all ships. So it's fun to see so much. I mean, there's 5 people at 100K.
Yeah, over 100K this month.
Yeah. I mean, I keep my own tabs going because
I love it, by the way.
Do you remember a time not very long ago that you were first and the next person down was how far down?
I mean, it was just
you were at 70K.
Yeah. And maybe the next person was at 50,
40, maybe even 35.
Yeah. Interesting. Big gap.
Yeah. There was a big gap. It was nuts. It was you could be in the top, to be in the top 10, it was, you could be at 30K.
Yeah. Yeah.
In revenue. And
for a while, it was Boulder was always number one. Cherry Creek was always number two. Cherry Creek's 60th you
Wow.
know, which that's going to change when Jen gets in there. But
Yeah.
it's
And you're a big part of that. You're a huge part of that.
No
where
question.
you built that. You built the standard at a point and getting to showing people that they could get to 70K. And everybody that would come in was like, I just want to beat Andy. I want to beat Andy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people couldn't do it.
Like
and then it
Mark's
finally
man.
happened. And then there was just that, then you had somebody that you could rival with. And then that started, like you said, that just the level of everybody growing just grabbed everybody else. And so now there's 5 people at 100K.
Yeah. I saw Amy Bailey. She just sold like 415K in December. Like, man, but that was like you know, I had a few months where I did that, usually around December for renewals. But now it's like, Marissa didn't she hit 500,000? Something crazy? Couple months ago.
She did.
Nuts. Yeah. So
Once people can see what's possible, it's
Right.
easy to attach it to yourself, right? And
Yeah.
so ultimately, you doing this for as many years really created a pathway for others, because now I can see, right? It's actually something plausible.
If you had to boil your success down to one mental habit, what would that be?
just probably trusting the process. I mean, the same thing that I did on, you know, for those 3 months that I was getting the magazine launched, the same mindset of going after the right types of businesses. And, you know, cause I still have a fear of failure, which I have plenty of confidence in my ability and what we can do, but there's still like a part of me in the back of my mind that's like, man, you know, I've got 4 kids, wife, multiple houses. I've got to provide, you know. So there's no there's always this, and I'll be like, dang, I'm getting all these no's, and going back to like, okay, what industries work, what are the follow the money, and
Going back to the basics, right?
Back to the basics. That's my number one. And even if it's not 10 meetings, you know, I'll if I'm in a rut, I'll just be like, all right, I want to go into next week with 5 meetings on the books, and good meetings, like, you know, full page prospects. And, you know, that's always, or like I'm taking 20 magazines and I'm not going to come home until, and that's something I would do when I was in pre-launch. Just I'd staple my business card to the inside front cover, have a little post-it note on the front, you know, 15,000 homes, you know, average home value 800,000, like just a couple bullet points, and I would not come home until I got rid of those 20 magazines, and then, you know, getting business cards and of decision makers throughout that, and like that's always kind of a good kickstart, I feel like, if I'm in a rut. So
yeah, there's something inside you that has this grit that just will not let
same as you.
go.
It's the Midwest grit, man.
Yeah, I mean, you just have this grit that it's. And I just remember you launched your first magazine in 6 weeks, and then you started a second magazine, and you had to, for some reason, you had to launch it in September, and it was like there was something with Labor Day or something was going on, and you but you had to launch it, and you didn't even get started. You kind of delayed the start. And you sent me this picture of, and I still have it. I think I have it saved on my favorites, but it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
and a picture and saying, I'm launching this, and it's 3 weeks, and you have 0 sales. Yeah. And you launched the magazine in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The second magazine in 3 weeks.
Creek, yeah.
There's a lot of power in a decision. There's a lot of power in like the I will, right?
Yeah.
And it's typically followed by habits and routines that you've learned to go out there and execute. And you talked about reverting back to the number of appointments. Right. Are there any other habits that, you know, you are kind of non-negotiable for you that you've built throughout the 13 years?
I think, like I said, getting in the office, getting dressed, getting, you know, fortunately I'm in Boulder, so I can roll around in a Grateful Dead t-shirt and a cardigan. But, you know, there is something to be said for you know, look sharp, play sharp. You know, in high school we wore ties and coats and ties on game day, and some people laugh at that, and, you know, that is it is a mindset though, that if you taking it serious, and I get way more production done when I'm dialed in. Yeah.
It's big.
So let's go back to beginning, even before City Lifestyle. What shaped you and formed you to kind of have that grit, have that, and yeah, Midwestern is part of that for sure, but what things formed you to be who you were, from family to mentors to different things that you did in the past before City Lifestyle?
Yeah, I think like I said, my parents just having that. I didn't come from a wealthy, I came from a middle class home, and my dad had a remodeling business, and then he was a pastor. So he never made a lot of money, but we never, there was never a bill collector that ever called our house. He paid cash for everything. He would pick up, even when he was a pastor, he would pick up, he had a lot of skills with, being a craftsman and carpenter and everything. So for us, like going on family vacations, they always took us to Colorado for 2 weeks in the summer, and he would work. He didn't take that. That wasn't enough in his salary to do that. So he would do like, a cabinet job on the weekends and, once a month or something like that. So that, like, just having that as an example of a provider, and just like there's no, especially when you have a family to provide for, there's no plan B. Like this, you can't just come home and say, sorry kids, like we're not, having dinner tonight, or just put it on the credit card. Like we never, those trips, and he could have got a credit card, and he's got like a 900 credit score. I think he's still to this day, but he's still, so it's like, Dad, go get a golf cart, like for your lake house. You don't have to drive your car down to the dock, and he just won't do it.
What a great example.
Yeah, but that, that was great. And I think just integrity of something else that stuck, that integrity can take a lifetime to build, but one dumb decision to throw away. And, with us working with our clients and promising something and then not delivering can snowball, by them telling other business owners, like, with Boulder Lifestyle, promised us to the moon, and then they didn't do it. So, and then, just seeing what you did, Stephen, and I don't know what it was. I don't know why. I didn't know you very well at the time, but I did believe in, like, you were a leader, and I was like, dude, for whatever reason, I feel like this guy's got it dialed in, and or he may not know it all now, but he's going to figure it out, And I still tell that to people, clients that I meet with right now, like, hey, our CEO is, we're 250 magazines in the company. He started this thing in 2009, and when everybody was saying you're crazy for starting a magazine, so but he just figured it out, and so I've kind of taken that approach too and run with it.
Sounds like you had a great mentor, obviously, in Stephen. Were there any others that, as you were kind of growing up in the business, you leaned on, and what was that like?
Yeah, Jim Newman in Atlanta for sure. Stephen's uncle, and
he's your uncle too. Right?
He's my uncle-in-law.
Family ties.
Yeah, he came from like selling lumber, right?
Yeah.
He was crushing it in the 90s and early 2000s, and then I don't know why did he shift over to was he in a Gap or he sold a company or
2009 the building and lumber industry just tanked.
That's right. Yeah.
And so there was this Gap, and he had done so well, so successful, and I always looked up to him too. It was like, okay, that's the guy, and he's the reason actually I started the magazine. That's a whole other podcast, but he's the reason I started the magazine. But it was like, okay, this is the guy to look at, and there was this gap in him doing the lumber and doing something else. So he heard what I was doing. He came in, I think, for our wedding. That's what it was, and he was like, "What do you got going on here?" Yeah. And then he's
was
like,
it Julie? It must have been Julie.
Let's get a part of this. I need to get a part of this.
Yeah. So he was just seeing that it worked in other markets it definitely gave some confidence that we can pull it off. So
okay, so you've built such a strong business, and I'm sure there's ups and downs with emotions and different things from when you're out there in the field and you're talking to clients and all that. How do you, and there's so much to take care of with clients, how do you turn it off when you come home and be present with your family? Yeah. Is there a process that you go through, or what do you do?
I mean, just recently, I think I shared you that John Tyson author, just kind of a prayer / saying, you know, I have it in my truck that I'll turn off whatever podcast or whatever that I'm listening to. Our neighborhood, it takes about 4 minutes from turning in the neighborhood to actually getting up to our house, and so I've been trying to turn off whatever I'm listening to, so that I'm kind of getting my mind ready for re-entry with the home. Because you know, when you're dealing with a client and then maybe an unhappy customer or whatever the case may be, I guess it's a little easier if like you just close a $100,000 deal and you walk in like popping champagne. But the reality is most days it's not like that. But yeah, getting your mind right. And I think, you know, when I was really hustling hard, my kids were so young, they didn't know, you know, if I would get home at 6 o'clock, and they were, you know, 2-3 years old, they didn't know what was going on. So, but pretty much for you know, the memories that my kids are going to have is that Dad was there, you know, every morning for the most part for breakfast. I'm there for dinner every night, or you know, picking them up at school a lot. And not to like pat myself saying I'm super dad, but this is an opportunity where if you structure your week right and you can be present with your family. And you know, I've got a lot of friends that are, you know, probably in the similar income categories I am, but they're rolling in at 7:30 at night and leaving at 6 in the morning. And it's not, you know, there's no judgment there, but I'm just really grateful that I can set my week up. But then also, you know, I was driving with the fam, and I was parked, and I opened my email and a client that, like a renewal, like 3 days ago, they said, yeah, we're in. We're like, it's been a great, you know, we're signing us up for another 36 months. Then I got an email yesterday, and while I was getting gas it was just with my family, and it's like, well, I think we want to just like look at 4 or 6 months a year. And so I was just like, you got to be kidding me. So that, like, having those kind of things then I'm, you know, it's easy to be like short with your kids or like, you know, irritable. Like, so that's just something that, that's probably like the number one thing that can be a hindrance when you think something's in the bag, and then, you know, it shifts at the last minute. Just like having faith that it's all going to work out. If you're doing the right things, like in the long run, it's all gonna level out and work out. But yeah, I think just Katie and I have both been trying to put our phones, you know, totally different part of the house at 5:30, and
that's amazing.
It's easy in this, especially in this, you know, you want to check like, how did they respond? Did they sign that deal? You know, and not, I don't want my kids' memories to be like, man, Dad was like he was always around, but he was always on his phone, you know, or like talking to somebody in the laundry room. So
what a shift. They're probably, like, speaking of family, they're probably, when you first started, was there some like shock and awe around you, you know, leaving one industry and coming to the other, and what are you doing? And then if there was any of that, what shifted, and how's that kind of evolved with how your family sees the business?
Well, like I said, the kids were super, you know, babies at the time that I shifted from the restaurant industry to this. But I mean, extended family, I think everybody for the most part believe, like, at least from the outside, they were like, you know, rooting us on and go. I'm sure there was some doubt, you know, especially from some friends, you know, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, Prince dead. This, you know, again, this was 2012 that we made the decision to move, and you know, some doubt. You know, I had my own doubt for sure too, but there was just, you know, keep pushing through, following the blueprint, not trying to reinvent. And I think, like, even as a company, Steve and I, we've seen a lot of talented people come in, and we are like, man, this person's going to crush it. And then they like have their own, like, oh, you know, in our last industry, we did it this way. And then they try to like just go out in left field and reinvent, you know, the process. And everybody's going to have their own take on the presentation, their own customer service, you know, strengths. All that's going to be unique, but like the general, like, stay in the fence of what works, you know, put your own twist on it, but not try to reinvent the wheel.
That's a giant key for new franchises, and I also think folks who have been around a while, is just to always come back to center, right? And always come back to what we know works and is factual and happens every time. And you've mentioned this many, many times. So
yeah, I mean, there's people that way more talented than I am that have come and gone through the company, you know, in my tenure, that from a more polished, command better stage presence, public speaking, but they've, for whatever reason, you know, tried to do it a different way, and then dominoes start falling of negative barriers or whatever. But
that's great.
I'm like a dog, you know, you just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. For the most part.
Such a key to success there, because ultimately after doing this from 2009 until now, we've seen it all. We've seen it all in personalities. We deeply understand what the metrics and the math is, and it hasn't changed from when you began.
Right.
All of those years ago, and the reason it hasn't changed is because these things are truths. They are facts. They are not something we think. So anyways, it's interesting how you've leaned into that and how you've come back to that even at your level as you've realized that maybe those habits or patterns have strayed a little bit. So anyways, really, really great stuff.
Yeah.
So after 13 years, what actually motivates you now?
I think the same. Yeah. I mean, I still have all the kids are still in the house, and we're still like in our earnings years. So it's not like I don't want to get rich to get a Lambo or, for me, producing income is a direct, the downstream of that is time with my family. So the more income that I can bring in from the magazine means traveling, you know, making memories with our kids. And we just went to Italy, all 6 of us together, which was incredible. There is, again, it's not like material things and buying, you know, a nicer house, but for me, I'm motivated by still being a provider and wanting to, like, now as we're looking into, I'm bumping up against 50 years old. So, you know, I'd like to, our oldest son's August is 15, and we've got 3 more behind him. So I'm hoping somebody will take the reins, and I wouldn't even, selling, especially Boulder, it wouldn't even, the value that a valuation company would put on it, there's just no way, the value it is to me of the income and the longevity of it. So I don't really have any interest in selling it, because I know I could never replace that income. But my motivation is just that staying, you know, we've established ourselves in the community. They expect, if we just sloughed off and then it went down to 50 pages after being consistently 120 for all these years, you know, our advertisers would be like, hey, what's going on? So I feel like I have an obligation to our advertisers to keep it fresh, keep bringing in new high-end partners, and for my family, just allowing us to be flexible and travel and you know, have that stability. I think there's a lot to be said for just being able to be with, you know, I love being with our kids and Katie. So
there was a big life event that happened, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
4 years, yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that and kind of how that's changed your mindset of what you look at from a family side?
Yeah, so there was a huge, there was a wildfire in Colorado, the Marshall Fire, that took out 1,100 homes.
I was there.
Yeah. And that was definitely, I think when it first happened, you know, you're in like shock and like, and then there's like a sadness, you know, walking in the neighborhood the next day and like seeing everything just like leveled, and I mean, literally like blowtorch. There was nothing, you know, some people think like, oh, your house burned down. Like you still see the whole house and like maybe the inside just burned up. But I mean, this thing it was 100-mile-an-hour winds and a massive fire. So I think there was like a Yeti mug, and actually this award that Katie and I won, like some community, a nonprofit in town that gave us this award that was made out of it was a heart in a bike chain, made out of a bike chain. And we found that, but otherwise, like, everything in a day was that we had was gone. So that was like really, I mean, there was a part of it too that was kind of almost a relief. Like, man, like all this like crap that you have in your storeroom and the yellow and black tubs that you've been toting around for 3 different houses that you haven't opened it since you moved into this house. Like there was kind of a relief on like this material possessions being gone, and like starting my wardrobe with just like 2 pair of pants and 4 shirts, and trying to live a little more simple. But that changed my mindset probably in what it really is important. And our kids handled it amazing. So proud of the way that they just persevered. And we moved, there was 1,100 families that all of a sudden needed housing, and Boulder County already was, had some housing issues as it was. So we just were like, you know what, six people and a dog, like we're not going to live in an apartment for the next 3 years. So we boogied out to the mountains and lived a very kind of secluded, simple life for 2 years out there. And the business, Katie and I would take turns coming back to Boulder once a month, and it was harder. There was definitely some challenges with that, but the kids were riding snowmobiles to school, and it was just there's no cell service in this little town, and we had Wi-Fi obviously at our house, but that was a cool. And then it was good to we were like, all right, we got to get, by the end, when it was still like snowing a foot in April, you're kind of ready to be back and get some good sushi and back in civilization. But that was it was a great experience for our family, and then we're glad to be back. And then I feel like that kind of was I got re-energized by kind of that time period, and now I'm back, and hopefully if my numbers are right, it should be a good conference.
I love it.
I don't know. Steven's always shifting the parameters.
We have to shift things a little bit.
To make sure I don't win.
No. I've never seen someone walk through such a crazy devastation better than you and Katie did, and what your family did. I mean, it starts to get me emotional just thinking about it, because I just remember your kids coming over for Christmas. It would happen like right before Christmas. Is that right?
It was right. It was December 30th. So we were supposed to come back to Kansas City for Christmas.
Yeah.
I got COVID.
Yeah.
So we stayed, and
Yeah.
actually we were able to get, we had 15 minutes. We were home when the evacuation was just like, it was evacuate, and then 30 minutes later, everything was gone. So
and I remember talking to you before, earlier
we came
that
back.
morning.
We came back. So we came back to Kansas City. After.
I remember talking to you earlier in that morning, which is crazy that like 2 hours later your house was gone.
Yeah, wow.
But you guys coming back to Kansas City, and it had happened, and all the Christmas gifts were gone. Like obviously went up in the fire and all that, and just how your kids were like, yeah, we didn't need that stuff.
Yeah.
And how incredible your kids were. They were just not like devastated. They were, I'm sure, but just how they reacted, and it just was credit to you and Katie for how you raise your kids and how much intentionality you have with them about, it's not about stuff, it's about experiences.
Yeah, wow.
And so that's one thing I just saw with you is that you guys walk through that with such grace and such humility and just such strength.
Thanks, man.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen it.
You helped us out a lot, and I know that everybody back here was rooting for us. So it meant we could feel the prayers and everybody's.
So has that changed the way you do vacations and how you just like, you used to have a bourbon collection.
Yeah.
So now it's now you're not holding on to
I
it.
think that's why our house
just
blew
like
up so big. Actually, the door, our basement sliding door, it was like 70 yards, and like we had an acre.
Wow.
And the explosion was, I mean, part of it was it was either the gas line or 300 bottles of bourbon. Or
a combination.
One or the other, yeah. But but even that, like, I didn't even like, it was kind of, maybe that was God saying like, dude, I got, again, like, I'm such a competitive person. When my buddy got me into bourbon, my whole goal was like, all right, if you say that I can't find this bottle of bourbon anywhere, like, it's my goal to go find it. And so that was like a major distraction for a couple of years. But yeah, after that, I was like, Katie built, you haven't been to our house, but there's a cool like art wall, and there's a secret door in this one part, and she gave me a really nice crystal like decanter, and there's one bottle of, I filled that up with a nice bourbon. It's like that. She's like, this is your bourbon room, honey, like one bottle. So that's even that, like, that was like, it became, not that bourbon's bad, it just became an obsession of like and I didn't even drink a whole lot of it. It was the collecting, and so there's just things like that that the fire kind of was an eye opener. Like, okay, you don't need 6 bikes and all this stuff. So
And from the experiences side with your family now, is it more about like not waiting to take the vacation or doing the experience? It's like, do it now, because you never know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we trying to dial back, like, the gifts that we give each other, and like, let's what's the next trip we're taking, where we going.
Great.
So that's, I think the kids are going to remember that way more than an RC car or something. So
what's the biggest misconception around having success in the business long term? You've been like we've talked about at the top for so long. What's I
think that it's like, once you hit a certain spot, that it's just a given that it's just going to sustain itself. So for sure, like, the highs and the lows aren't as, it's definitely more of a steady, if you're doing it right. But just because, I was, I'm at whatever 100K this month, but I'm looking at 6 months down the road, I'm at like 68. So, and I try not to get, that can be a positive word, and you can't look at that and start freaking out and panicking, but it just means like you always have to, the beauty in this model is that every month we're not like starting from scratch and like gotta fill 50 pages of ads, because we have these long-term partners. But I totally lost my train of thought.
Ultimately, we're talking about the idea of maintaining something over a long time, right? And it's like, in our business, I think there's different peaks, and you talked about them. 16, getting launched, getting yourself to 30, getting yourself to 50, getting yourself to 70. But how do you maintain it, right? And what are some things that people should be thinking about to really think long term, and to be able to create the kind of lifestyle that ultimately you've created? Any thoughts?
I think focusing on the right types of businesses. Like I said, when I first started, I was going, meeting with a consignment store in the corner of a strip mall for a quarter-page ad. Like that's 45 minutes of my time that I should be with a builder who's building 25, 30 homes a year, multi-million-dollar homes. So it might be easier to get the meeting with the the lower ticket items, the businesses that are in that category. And there's nothing wrong with, I applaud anybody for hustling on a small business, but for our model, there are certain industries that they have a marketing budget. It's just a matter of, do they like me enough and trust me to allocate a sliver of that budget with us. And some clients, for Audi, we're a sliver of their $100,000 a month marketing budget. But for the majority of our clients, we make up a pretty good amount. We're not cheap. It's a significant amount of money that these folks are investing with us. So keeping that, focusing on those types of businesses that aren't, when the wind shifts, from an economic standpoint, or the stock market goes down, that you're not getting. Even in COVID, when that happened, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna brace myself like for this windfall of people wanting to cancel. And honestly, like I think the rest, we don't have a lot of restaurants that advertise with us, but I think the 2 restaurants, we did we paused their ad campaign until everybody panicked at first at COVID, and then quickly we realized, like, okay, this is especially for product like ours, it was going straight to the homes. People didn't have to leave their house to get it. And the majority of our clients are in the home design, home services. So that whole industry exploded. I think we were down like 3% in 2020, 2021, but we didn't lose any clients because we were our foundation. It's like building a house. Like we built the magazine on a foundation of reputable companies that have marketing budgets that, like I said, that aren't going to want to be calling you to bail out anytime financial headwinds come.
Yeah, huge.
And that's really been what's sustained. We've obviously lost clients along the way, and I hate anytime that happens. It's always a bummer, but if you keep your foundation strong, you're going to be able to weather the storm.
And there's big power in that. And you talked about real estate, you talked about car dealers, you talked about home and design services. Any other categories that you really feel have been very foundational for you in the way you've structured and thought about the business over the last 13 years?
I mean, you could throw in healthcare, dermatology, plastic surgery, those dental, those kind of industries. I think those are great. But retail's never been we've got some great retail partners that are established in Boulder and in Denver. But I think for the most part, I think that can be kind of a fickle industry, and that's a hustle. That's a hard industry. But I think just because there's always going to be people buying homes. Realtors. We're sold out in both magazines. We have our 5 realtors in both, and I think we've got a multiple year waiting list in those industries. And I think there's a lot of power in that too. Like not just taking anybody that comes, like Steven said, that push away, and being able to say, not being arrogant about it, but like, hey, we get realtors that reach out to us every month, and I'm always like, so honored that you thought of us, and right now we're maxed out. I'm for sure keep your info if any openings come up. So then
people aren't used to hearing that.
No, then when
they're like, what?
We filled we have a lady that's a realtor that's retiring, and he actually helped me because I came into Boulder not knowing, I don't know what neighborhoods are the top neighborhoods, and he didn't advertise at first, but he was super cool, and he helped me with my distribution map of like, okay, you definitely need this neighborhood, you need this neighborhood, and then he ended up advertising like 10 years with us.
Wow.
It took him a little while, it took him a couple of years, but then he jumped on. But he's retiring, and so his spot starting in January, and I filled it. I filled it in a week with he had a single page. I filled it with a 2-page spread real estate group that's been on the waiting list. So it was just like a done deal. But
that's exciting.
Yeah.
So if you could send a message back to day one what would it be? And would it like type of clients to go after, or motivation, or some kind of message that you could send back? It could be multiple messages.
Yeah. Again, I've said this multiple times, but might sound redundant, but keep trusting the process, go after it, follow the money. These are all things that I've just regurgitated from you, but and kind of what I said previously about the best client's the one you have. I think even though we've prided ourselves on customer service throughout our, even when we started, trying to do events and things, but there's been, it can cut down your workload a lot when you're renewing current customers and still bringing new people on board. But that ratio of losing clients and then having to fill their spot with new people and onboard them, like there's some specific clients that they only are not with us not because we did something negligent or lied and or didn't run the story if we said, but they're just some extra, like going the extra mile with a few people that some people don't. There's people that are in the magazine, been there for 10 years that I've seen like in person maybe 3 times in 10 years.
Wow.
And they just
it's a
know,
huge testament to what you're doing.
Well, like they know it's just a different buyer, a different type of, like they know we're hitting the right homes. They get it to their house. They know that when they go to their friends to have dinner, it's on their coffee table, and that's all they need. Then there's other people that, they don't know. It is more of the relationship, and like oh, I don't even know, like, I don't know if the magazine's working, but, I like playing golf with you, and, we go skiing and things like that. So I know you can't take everybody golfing and everybody skiing that's a client, but there's a few people that you got to find out what is the trigger for because every client's going to be different. So, but there's basically like 3 buckets of like, okay, these people, they know that they get 5 new clients every month, and there's these people that, like I said, that they know the magazine's going to the right homes. And then there's another group of people, client, that it is about the relationship, like 90% of it. So I think there's just a few people that I would like to go back and put a little more effort in.
I love that. Is there anything tied that you would say to yourself when starting in terms of tips around habits or around routine that, now through 13 years, you're like, man, those were the 1 or 2 things?
I think the 10, I don't know if you guys still require that, or, I mean, in my mind back then, I was like, man, I'm like, even though it was my own business, and, Steven was the head of the company, but I didn't consider you my boss, but it was like an understood, like 10 meetings a week. And that was just like branded into my brain. And I think if it would have been like, hey, just go out there and do your best and, try to launch in 3 months. That's the goal. Like, I would not have launched as quick as I did without that activity, especially early on, is just so critical, is getting out there and getting those meetings and structuring your week, not just taking each week as it comes to you. Like, Monday was an office day, and business owners, they're all catching up on, things that they couldn't tie up on Friday, and nobody really wants to meet on Mondays. So Monday was my office day, and going into each week with like, 5 or 6 meetings on the books, and then you're only having to then you're setting meetings for the end of that week and then the following week. So I think that is crucial. Like, so maybe even if the company as a whole isn't, I know it's harder with so many people now, but find a couple people in your training group that you can be like accountability partners and say, hey, guys, it's like Steven and I with our brother-in-law, somebody will send a text, one of our brother-in-laws will send a text out like, hey guys, 100 burpees this whole month, let's do it, and then we would, you just start like, oh, I hate burpees, but I guess we're all doing this thing together. So, or push-ups or whatever, some kind of challenge. So I think that's key. Like, whether it's the group as a whole or just finding 1 or 2 people that are in there pre-launch, like, hey, let's get it 10 meetings this week. Yeah.
That's awesome.
How much are you focusing on editorial at the beginning and now, and just through the whole process? How much do you focus on editorial versus the sales side?
I don't want to like diminish our team. Our editorial team is amazing, and but I let them. I kind of stay out of that lane unless it's pertaining to me. A story that's included in an advertising package, and making sure that ball doesn't get. Once if we close a deal, bring a new client on board, and part of that is a feature on their business, I'll email that off to Kelsey. Try to be. I'm not going to handcuff our team and say it's got to be next. I can't promise them everybody the next month their story's going to run, but like, hey, in the next 4 months, Rodwin Architecture, we're going to do a story on one of their homes. So that, and then I really like then I trust Kelsey, and then if it's a photo shoot for that business, I'll say, please invite me, like send me a calendar invite, and if I can get there, just to pop in and show face, I'll do that. But I'm not, the content is important, that it's local and it doesn't look, just stock but we have to, sales this thing runs on advertising. So that's
I think that's the key thing that you said is that you trust your team.
Yeah.
It's such an important team.
Right.
But you trust them to go do it.
Yeah.
And if you're the one doing it, then that takes away from the sales and the relationship building and everything that you
kind of funny because
do.
I can be if you ask Katie, I can be a control. I won't even let my kids like unload the dishwasher or load the dishwasher because I want it done a certain way.
I always redo the dishwasher.
Oh my gosh.
I always redo it.
Katie's like, honey, you got to let the kids, they're not going to have any work ethic. I'm like, I know, but man, we can get so much more in it if I feel it. Yeah.
I love it.
But there is, trusting them. And, I think if everybody's working well together, like we're paying them well. They're happy, so they're doing a good job, and we just try to stay in our lanes, and then we meet once a month and we make sure everything's on the same page. And
it's so big. I grew up in publishing going back to 97, and my original publisher used to say to me, the job of a publisher is chief revenue officer. And obviously the publisher also has editorial and has these different components, but the real driver of this thing is making sure that that's controlled, because when that's controlled, everything else can do what it is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
I mean, most times when people ask me what I do, I'll just, if I want to keep it easy, I just say I'm in advertising sales. That's kind of what it boils down to. I know publisher's maybe a more prestigious title, but
it's what it boils
people
down to.
will ask me about, hey, they're starting this kind of magazine somewhere, and like publishing and like rates for printing, and like, I don't know anything. I'm 13 years in. I couldn't tell you the first thing about like the publishing industry, other than you guys get our magazines out the first day of every month, which is amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Last question I have. What are 3 things that we don't know about you?
Ooh,
and I know a lot. So 3 things that...
That's a big one.
I've been on the cover of the New York Times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
It was the whole family after the fire. There was a picture of us standing in our lot where our house used to be, and the dog. Let's see. Gosh, you didn't put that on the...
Doing curveballs today, bro.
Yeah. Because you know me pretty well.
Yeah.
That's not fair, because you do know me very well.
Yeah, this is the
so
complexity.
maybe I'll have to
You
think
can throw
about
something out there
about Ron, but love live music. I'm kind of a
You're in a pretty good place for that.
yeah.
No question.
Love jam bands. Love Fish, Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Actually, is this the first podcast that you guys have done? So Katie and I were the first guests on a podcast in Boulder that one of our realtors had like 6 years ago, and I think all I talked about was Fish, the band.
I love it.
And I think they might have had like 2 more episodes and then it tanked. So hopefully you guys, if you want to talk about Fish, geek out on Fish. We actually took our whole family to, Fish played 3 nights at CU Boulder's football stadium over the summer, over 4th of July. And
that was an interesting video you sent me.
I was like, guys, like,
Fish concerts in Boulder.
This is what all this stuff that I listen to, and you guys are like, what is this music, Dad? I went the first night with just a buddy. Second night was 4th of July. It's like it's 5 miles from our house. Like gotta take the whole family. And like Copeland he had a bandana on like around his face just for like the weed smoke, like trying to keep that out of this. The people watching though was worth.
You keyed in when you sent me the video. You said just pick any single person in the whole crowd
and just watch.
And usually it's just like a couple people. It is every single person was a complete different thing.
And then I was carrying him out of the concert. He was up on my shoulders, our youngest, and they were selling nitrous balloons out in the parking lot. And he goes, $10 for a balloon, man. That's a ripoff.
He's gonna start a business now.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm gonna start selling balloons at Fish shows.
Wow.
Oh man.
All right, number 3.
Gosh, you're really holding me to the fire here.
You can say something.
Yeah, the third thing. What would that be? We'll have to cut this up. My first job was at Outback Steakhouse. I was a busser.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about
I would eat off people's plates.
Job? What about your job in college?
I would eat off just like I was, college. I would eat off people's plates too. You
would eat off people's plates at Outback?
No, yeah, man. Like bloomin' onion. If somebody didn't eat like half the bloomin' onion, I was taking that thing back. I was
grabbing some
chowing
sauce.
down. Yeah, a little steak.
Are you kidding me?
Little top sirloin.
Oh my gosh, that's nasty.
Oh, college, the Royals Stadium Club. Remember that restaurant along the left field line with the glass? Mm-hmm. It was like a bunch of my fraternity brothers from Warrensburg. We all worked there because the GM was. He was an older alumni from our fraternity, but we would all drive up from Warrensburg. We would chow down. Like, we were broke college kids, so we would eat prime rib off Yule's plates, like taking it back to the dish pit. We had no shame.
So you learned
But that was a
early.
blast. Yeah, I love the Royals. I love the Chiefs too, but I bleed royal blue. And Katie hate 162 games. I'll have like an earbud in, and it's hard to.
Oh no, you're diehard. You listen to When We're Back.
Oh,
too.
dude, I listen to I call in the post game shows from Colorado, like the Royals post game shows.
Yeah.
Radio show.
I love it.
You have to see our Leewood cover.
Air my grievances. Is that Alex
Joel
Gordon?
Goldberg.
Oh, Joel. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
He was in here pitching us on some stuff.
Really?
So,
yeah. When are we going to play golf with Alex Gordon?
We need to fix it. We need.
I wish I was a better golfer.
He pushed me off for a year. I didn't even do it, so I
Yeah.
need to get that going.
Yeah.
It's
kind of to the point now where it's too
it's a
too
little
long
far.
to cash in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no shame. I'll email him still.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking through this. Thank you for all
man.
you've done for us over the years.
You guys.
You are a legend here for sure.
Yeah.
And
I'm a little disappointed. I thought there was an actual Hall of Fame here. So remember when I was like, "Can
There's
I bring
a
my
Hall
kids?"
of Fame in the basement where all the
I got into the Hall of
furnaces
Fame.
are.
They brought me up on stage at the conference like 4 years ago, and like there's only 3 people in it in the City Lifestyle Hall of Fame, and I got this big medal and medallion. But then I thought there was like somewhere in the office that like there was a wall, maybe like my picture and a plaque. I was like, hey, we're in town for Christmas. I want to bring my kids by the office and show them like the Hall of Fame.
Oh, please.
Like it's in the boiler
It's
room.
this little tiny picture like that big.
Yeah. Have a little confetti for me.
Yeah. We'll do a little party. I'll get you a little trophy.
Good. I'll take it.
But you've been a legend here for sure. The company has changed because of you.
Yeah,
and
no
so
question.
you followed the system and the process to a T at the beginning, and then you were able to see on the ground what needed to shift on a few things, and things in the presentation are there because of you. Our editorial and our layout and the way we lay out magazines is because of Katie.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to give you credit.
Yeah, good.
But but it's because of you guys and what you've done, and so you've transformed a lot of these things, and so you've made this company way better.
Thanks,
so,
man. It's been a
appreciate it.
great run. Love being a part of it, and it's amazing to see just the talent. Like I keep saying, man. So we had some lean. You guys were all figuring it out and just trying to get more people in, and but the talent we've had in the last 3 or 4 years is pretty. And this guy,
Pretty remarkable.
yeah, might steal him to get him back to Colorado.
Good
There
luck.
you go.
Yeah,
Good luck.
can't afford you.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.